Okay, so now we're on our way, and I thought this was interesting. I don't know if like they don't have like Uber. I thought that most like travel sites had Uber or whatever. Even though I didn't do Uber, I went through the hotel transportation, and I'm walking to the car, and well, I'm not walking. I'm in a wheelchair. Like this, like young dude shouts out, "Oh, she must be rich. She has a private car." I'm like, okay, whatever. So I get in the car. I guess it's not common for you not to have to share a car with somebody. But I was like, I don't feel like dealing with no other people waiting for people to get on and just all of that. And so I did the equivalent to an Uber X. That that's just what I did. So it took 25 minutes from the airport to get to the resort. We get to the resort, get in there. The bell people are all friendly. The place is crowded as heck. And we're in a lobby resort and there's no air. And I'm like, hey, it's hot in here, you know? And so I'm just hot and I'm tired. I'm hungry. And that was the other thing is that I was very like I was hangry, I think, at that point. And like my head started hurting and just all types of stuff because I made it to the resort. I want to say now it's 4 o'clock. I landed at 2, and it's 4 o'clock with me getting to the resort or 4:30. So I'm looking around and I see. Oh, that was another thing is that I was surprised to see. I knew this was a Spanish speaking country, but I didn't know that there were a lot of Afro-Latinos in this country. And so everybody looked black, even though they spoke Spanish. And I was like, even like some of the people I was seeing, some people look Haitian, some people actually look Jamaican to me, some people looked Hispanic, and it was just like they're a array of browns, just like black people. And so that was interesting for me to see because I had never seen a Hispanic country where everybody looked black, even though they were Spanish, which means that they are Afro Latino. So I I sit at one of the couches, and then this woman comes up to me and she was like, "Are you with the Funky Bunch?" And I was like, "Yeah, yes, no." And she was like, "Okay, well, there's the travel agent." And I said, "Oh, actually, before that, I said, are you so and so?" Which was the travel agent. She was like, "No, that's her right there. She's on the phone." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "Go talk to her. She'll be able to tell you what to do." And she was like, "Funky's over there." And I was like, "Ah, where? I don't see him." And so I think I had just missed him. But anyway, so I talked to the travel agent who I was communicating with via email. And so I told her my story and I said, "Remember how I was telling you I lost my job and I was trying to, get on with your trip and this, that, and the third. But then I booked through the hotel." And she said, "Yes, I remember you." And so I said, "I'm here." And so she hugged me and everything. And she was like, "Don't tell nobody else that story." She was like, "You can hang out with us." And I was like, "Oh, thank you," But she was like, "Don't tell nobody else because, you didn't pay what they paid. And so I don't, want there to be any problems." And I was like, "No problem." No problem. So then she told me that Funky was just there, that he was doing the meet and greet, but that he had just left. And so she said that we were going to be doing dinner at 6:30 at Helios. And she was trying to tell me where it was and everything. And she was like, she took me up to the front desk. And so then I was able to get checked in and everything. And then she was like, "Yeah, once you get checked in, meet us, for dinner." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Thank you so much." So then I'm like, look at God. I didn't even know if I was going to get to meet anybody with the travel group or hang out with them and do any of the things. And so I was like, oh, this is such a blessing. I don't have to be in this country by myself, even though I did travel by myself. So I get, to the front desk and I'm checking in and everything. And so the young lady is saying, "You have the junior suite, the ocean view." And I'm like, "Yes." And I said, "I've asked about the 600 credit." And I said, "I've been communicating with you guys via email. And they told me to ask you guys at the front desk." I said they wouldn't give me like any information via the email. And I said I couldn't find it. And so she said, "Oh, well, you don't qualify for the $600 because it was for 5 days and 4 nights, and you're only staying 4 nights. I mean, 4 days and 3 nights." And I said, "Oh, well, that's funny because I was like, I was hoping to extend my trip." So this is what I was thinking when I got there because I was so stressed about everything. I was like, I need another day. And normally when I book trips, honestly, I always do 5 days and 4 nights. I don't usually do 4 days because to me that's not enough. 2 days of that traveling is travel time. When I'm doing travel, I'm not resting. And I said, I need to have a day to get myself together so that I can do the things to see where I'm at and see, get my bearings about where I'm going and what I want to do and see and all that stuff. So I can have 3 good days, three good days of actually, having fun. And so this time I'm doing 2 days of travel and 2 days of having fun. And so I wanted to extend it. And so she was like, "What's available? You can extend if you want to." And I told her I would have to call her back and let her know because I said I got to see if I can switch my flights. And so that was the only thing that was holding me back from doing the 5 days. So I booked my room and she says it's on the third floor. And I was like, "Oh, no problem. Okay, it's third floor. I've been on the third floor before, So then she gets a bellman. The bellman, takes my bags, and then we're going to my room, and he's telling me about the place and asking me questions, all the small talk and all that stuff, right? We get to, I guess, the building that I'm going to be staying in, which is 3 floors, and I'm on the top floor. And he's like, "Okay, we're going to go up the stairs." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Where's the elevator?" And he was like, "Oh, no, no elevator." What? There's not an elevator? And he was like, "It's no problem. You just go up these stairs." And I'm like, "No." I said, I had, surgery. I can't do those stairs. And he was like, "Oh, well, you could do it. You could do it. I promise you can do it." And so he was like, "I'm going to go up first and then I come back." And I said, "Okay." So he goes up, comes back. "Okay, you ready?" So then I try. Go up the stairs, get to the second floor, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm here." He's like, "No, this is the second floor." There's another floor. And I said, "Oh no, I gotta sit down again." I said, "I can't do this." I said, "This is gonna be a problem." I said, "Oh my God." I said, "I can't believe you guys don't have an elevator." So then after I got done resting on the second floor, I went up to the third floor and then he shows me my room and everything. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, this is nice." But I said, I can't do that up and down on those stairs. And so I was like, I need to switch rooms. And so he was like, "Okay, you stay here. I'm going to tell the front desk and, see if we can switch your room if there's another room available." So I'm waiting there and it's going too slow for me. And I'm just impatient. And I'm like, I gotta, I need to hop in the shower, change my clothes, get ready to meet the funky bunch and all this other stuff. And by this time, I'm looking at my watch. It's like 5 o'clock, and I'm like, they're talking about meeting at 6:30. So I'm like, I don't have time to just be wasting my little time. So I went down the stairs, and then I went to the lobby. But before I got to the front desk, I ran into the person who was going to be my butler, and so she said, "Is there anything I can help you with?" And so I told her what was going on, and so she was like, "Okay, we need to go to the front desk to see if we can get that, going for you. And so she said she'll notify the front desk. And I said, well, I'm just going to come with you because I said, there's no point in me sitting around. I was like, I need to meet people for dinner. So I'd rather just get this solidified and everything. And so she said, no, 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 I take care of this. That's my job, blah, blah, blah. And so she told me to sit down at her desk, and I sat down and I relaxed for a moment. And like I said, it's just hot as shit. I'm just telling you. I'm just sitting there hot. Like, oh my God, where am I at? It feels like hell. And so she comes back and she's like, I talked to them. And so they're going to switch you to the first floor. I'm going to show you your room. And she was like, so you get an all-inclusive bracelet. This isn't it. But you get a bracelet, and the bracelet is also how you get into your room, and you just swipe it to get in your room. And so she was like, I'm going to get the bellboy to get your luggage from the third floor and bring it down here. And then you have to go to the front desk because I told her I was trying to get to a dinner. And so she said, you got to get your bracelet rekeyed to this room. And I said, okay. And so I get to my room, and then I get in there and it smells like mold. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, it smells moldy in here. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. And so she was like, I'll get a humidifier. And she was like, and I think what she meant was an air purifier, but she said a humidifier. And I'm like, a humidifier? I think that's going to make the mold worse. But anyway. And so she was like, that'll help with the air and everything. But don't you worry about it. She was like, you get ready for your dinner and you do this, that, and the third. And, I'll get that going. And so then it was something else I was having problems with. So, like, I just kept annoying this woman. I know she was like, I'm sorry I even ran into this woman. And so that's where I guess it sort of dawned on me. I was like, was I doing too much? Because it was like nothing, but it seemed like ever since I got to the resort that nothing was going right and that everything was an issue. And so then I was trying to calm myself down. And so I hopped in the shower, and the shower felt great and amazing. And then I was like, okay, let me figure out what I'm gonna wear. And my hair, like I had completely sweated out my hair. And so it was not looking like it did when I left. And so I was like, oh God, I don't have time to really do anything, because I'm steady watching the clock. I don't have time to curl it. I don't have time to fix what's going on with my hair. I only had time to shower and change clothes. And so that is what I did. And so then I asked the butler, I'm like, where's the restaurant? They said that we're supposed to meet at such and such. So she gives me directions to the place, and I go over there. And why is the place closed? I mean, like, the whole restaurant was closed. Nothing was open. I saw people in there. And so finally somebody was outside, and they had all these tables outside. Like, they had limited seating inside, which is where the air conditioning was, and it was all the seating outside. And I was like, I'll be damned if I sit out here. I was like, I'm gonna be going inside. And I was like, I hope that the Funky Bunch got a table on the inside because this is a bull. And so I'm sitting there, and so this time I'm glad, this is one of the things where I came prepared. And so before I came, I read that the mosquitoes were really bad. And so I sprayed my body down with some bug spray. And so all my body was covered in bug spray. Then I packed my personal fan. I actually packed two, but I only put one in my purse. And so I decided, okay, I'm waiting for this place to open. And then, like I said, I ran into somebody. He told me that the restaurant would be open shortly because it wasn't quite 6:30. So I got there like at 6:15. So I had to wait another 15 minutes for the place to open. And so I'm sitting at the table with my personal fan, and all these people keep walking back. And so I keep seeing these couples all dressed in white, and I'm like, are they part of the funky bunch? Or, what is it? But I guess this resort is popular for weddings. And so it turns out that they're all there for weddings because I kept seeing these couples. Why did every couple that I saw was arguing? And I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm single. I was like, I don't have time for this. I mean, like, I'm not trying to hear it, but they're arguing in front of me. Like, dude that was in this one couple was so annoying to me. I thought this was some basic. I'm like, why is he arguing about this? So they get there and the place is closed. And so the woman was like, where is this? And so they gave her an answer. And so I guess dude didn't like the answer, and he was like, no, you should have let me talk because I don't accept the first answer that somebody gives me. I would have asked him more questions. But you did this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, but it's not that big a deal. And just, and he's like, no. And so then he stopped somebody, and then they asked, whatever. And he was like, see, he told me something different. And she was like, it's not that big deal. And I mean, he was really having a meltdown. And I'm sitting there listening like, I'm on her side. Why are you so aggravated? Because she took the first answer that somebody gave her. And I'm like, this is so stupid. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I kind of want companionship, but when I hear nonsense like that, it makes me want to say no, no. I don't want no companion. No, thank you. I was sitting there glad, like I ain't had to deal with no like that, and I was glad, and I was mad rather that I had to listen to their bull. So, anyway, so next thing happens is another couple walks past and they're arguing. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, is this couple arguing night? Why are they all arguing about some dumb ish? And so then that's when I found out it was a wedding and they were all part of the wedding party. And I was like, oh, thank God. And so then like 3 minutes before, 6:30, people starting to arrive who were part of the Funky Bunch. And so it turns out that the Funky Bunch was pretty much all women. There were a couple of guys. They were not heterosexual. And so the rest of it was females. And so then the travel agent came and she hugged me and everything. And so she was like, you could sit anywhere. It's not, any assigned seating or anything. And so I sat where I sat. And then, the first group of people started sitting by me. Then other people started sitting other places. And then they were trying to figure out where Funky was going to sit. And so then eventually he came and he started, talking to everybody. Hey, how you doing? Introducing himself and stuff like that. And so it was nice, but it was like I was just so tired. And so it was like I didn't have any energy and I really wasn't participating in conversations. And then, like I said, if you know me, then you know that I'm kind of a shy person. And so I don't necessarily talk if I don't feel comfortable in a situation. And so being that I don't know anybody and it seems like some of the people kind of know each other. And I guess some people had actually been on his trip before. And so they knew each other from the previous trip. And so, it's like me just trying to get a feel for everything that's going on. But I couldn't wait for the food. And it was like all they kept doing, as far as the waiters, they kept taking our drink orders. And so the first thing I did is order my favorite drink, which I think those who know me personally know it's a Mai Tai. And this is not a Mai Tai, but it's similar. But, I got a Mai Tai and I'm like, ooh, this ain't a Mai Tai. I don't know what this is. This tastes like juice. So, because like I said, they were asking for drinks, that's all they were taking at the time. Like we weren't given a menu. I didn't know what was going on with the food. And then they just came out with some bread. And so they kept coming out with bread and drinks. Nobody was talking about food. And so the next time I ordered a drink, I was like, can I get a rum punch? And so they were like, okay. So they bring back a rum punch, and I started drinking that, and it was not like this. It had sweet and sour mix. And the reason why I know it has sweet and sour mix, because sweet and sour mix gives me agina. Or for you who don't know what agina is acid reflux. So that's how I knew it was. I'm sorry. I'm being fancy and trying to be Italian. I'm speaking my Spanish. I'm speaking my Italian. And so it gives me acid reflux. And so I was like, ooh, can't drink this either. So then I was like, well, do you guys have something else? I said, do you guys do a hurricane? Or, I'm trying to find something that's in the same family as a Mai Tai. I think I gave up and I was just drinking water. And so then when they brought us water, it was looked like tap water. And I said, oh no. I said, we're not supposed to drink tap water, right? And so the people at the table was like, oh, this has to be filtered. It's at a restaurant. And I was like, okay. And so I drank the water. So I hope that I was not drinking unfiltered water, because I read before I came there, and one of my friends told me, don't drink the water. She said, even when you're brushing your teeth, don't drink the water. And so friend who's a travelista, she travels a lot of places. And so I was really like glad that she told me at least about the water and everything, and kind of emphasized that you don't even brush your teeth with it. She was like, you can shower with it, and that's about it. And so she was like, when I'm washing my face and when I'm brushing my teeth, use bottled water. And so that was one of the things that I asked the butler for, is I asked her to bring me some bottled water, and they brought me a whole pack. And so I had that lasted me for the the remainder of my trip. Anyway, so I stopped drinking and I was just drinking water. So I was definitely real quiet. And I did, so finally the food started coming out. And the first thing they brought out after the bread was salad. The salad I've definitely had better. I wasn't feeling the salad, and it was supposed to be a Caesar salad. And I love a good Caesar salad, but it didn't have any flavor. I never had dressing that didn't have flavor. Then the next thing they brought out was pasta, and so they said it was some kind of chicken pasta. But when I ate it, I said, "This don't even taste like restaurant quality." I said, "This tastes like something I made at home." So I wasn't feeling the pasta, but I ate it because I was starving. Mind you, I hadn't eaten since the day before. And so all I had that day was just water, bread, and alcohol by that point. Oh, I forgot. I had pretzels on the plane. That's what I ate. So, after the pasta, that's when they finally brought us, I guess, what they considered the main course. So they brought us steak and chicken. And so it was okay. It was tasty enough. Then they brought out grilled vegetables and mashed potatoes. Then they brought us a second course of proteins. It kind of reminded me of Fogo de Chao. I've never been there, but I heard how they constantly bring out meat. So they kept bringing out meat. And so this time they brought out salmon and pork. And so I got some of that. Then they came out with sausages. And so I tasted the sausages and I was like, I don't like these sausages. They came out with more meat. And I said, more meat? And so I had already filled up on 4 kinds of meat. I had steak, chicken, fish, and pork. And I tried the sausages, and the sausages weren't good. The mashed potatoes taste like boxed mashed potatoes. And the pasta tasted like something that I would have cooked myself. And then the salad was bland. So I was done by then. And I started to, start to get to talk to people and get to know them and everything. And, I was grateful that other people were, by this time ready to go too. And so, everybody started leaving. So I left with one person and went back to my room and everything. And then the drama starts.